Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laron, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaron.com. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to episode 45. And in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about overwhelm because I will admit to you that I am not immune to overwhelm. And in fact, over the last week and a half or so, I have struggled with it a little bit, and I found myself a little bit underwater. And so I just wanted to talk about how I deal with that and kind of what some of those circumstances were. So as you guys know, you've been listening to this podcast probably for a while, for the last couple of weeks. I do a lot. I do a whole heck of a lot, actually. And I work at a Fortune 100 insurance company during the day. So that's my full-time job. I am was a manager. Now I'm a product manager at this company, and so that takes up a lot of my time. And I also have a family and have all the obligations of a father and a son and a loving friend and all that stuff that you guys know. And then I also am in law school classes in the evenings, which just passed my last class, which I'm excited about, but that takes up a lot of time. And one of the things I haven't told you guys about is that I do teach insurance classes as well from time to time. So that requires some prep work and preparation. And the reason I do that is one, it helps me kind of stay up with things in my job, but also some of the professional training I've been getting through this nonprofit that I work with has been fantastic and has really done wonders for my personal speaking and the way that I organize my ideas and the way that I present stuff on this channel or on this podcast and on my YouTube channel. So that's something I'll be doing at least for the short term because of that benefit. And I also do work with Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors, which is a nonprofit organization for authors. And I love that organization because their mission dovetails with mine. And I've always wanted to find ways to give back to the author community. But I don't want to be one of those authors that makes all their money from author services. I want to provide author services, but I want to be a writer first and foremost. That's where I want the money to come from. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. But those are all the things that I'm currently doing. And that's a big list, right? Well, I did this to myself. And I have no one to blame but myself. But I decided to create a course last month. So I announced my crazy urban fantasy project where I'm launching a new pen name in the genre. And I'm doing all these interesting things to kind of figure out, okay, what would it look like if I were starting my career over in 2019? And so with a course, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And I had done all the planning before I launched the course. That wasn't a big deal, but it's definitely a lot of videos to record. And it's a lot of minor details that I kind of have to pay attention to. And I have to be accountable to my students because I'm releasing new content every week. And so I got to a point, I think about a week and a half ago, where I had some issues with my office, shooting YouTube videos, and then I had some issues with the podcast, and so I was kind of struggling for a little bit. And so it's really only been the last, 2 or 3 days where I've kind of dug myself out. I was buried in emails. I was buried in a to-do list of stuff I had to record, videos I had to shoot, deadlines I had to meet for all the various different obligations I had, and I almost was in danger of missing either a week of the podcast or a week of the YouTube channel, and that just was not acceptable. So, like I said, I was struggling, and so I had this mound of papers and things on my desk that I had to figure out what I was going to do with, and I don't know, I ended up shredding them all yesterday. In fact, I had so many papers on my desk, and it was bothering me so much that I actually burned out my shredder last night. I was putting stuff through it, and the shredder said, nope, I'm just going to die. It's okay. So now I got to go out and buy a new shredder, but at least I don't have any paper on my desk anymore. and then I had a bunch of stuff in my office, and I had to figure out how to organize that. And I find that the less organized my office gets and the less organized my writing space gets, the more scatterbrained I get. And sometimes I don't do something about it right away, and I probably need to get a little bit better about that. So that problem is taken care of. I zeroed out my emails yesterday as I record this, so I've only got 2 or 3 in there now, which makes things much easier for me. I hate when I get buried in emails. It's one of my pet peeves. Email controls my life, for better or worse. It controls my life at work, controls my life at home. I don't like it, but I have to live with it. I don't think that there's any other way you can survive in the 21st century without learning how to live with email. Oh, and then I didn't even tell you guys about a tool that I'm working on. So when I was doing the course, I was working on figuring out a better way to find similar genres, or I was working on a way to find similar artists in your genre. And it was a problem that I was really trying to focus on solving for myself. And I realized, there's a tool that I could build for myself in the urban fantasy genre where I could load a bunch of authors and books into this tool and then have it be a way for myself to kind of keep track of what's going on in the genre. And then I thought, that's a lot of work. So I talked to a friend of mine, John P. Logsden, and we co-developed a tool that basically it's gonna utilize the power of the urban fantasy community. And basically what it's going to be able to do is, I can't say too much about it yet, but it's going to allow you to find other authors and books in the urban fantasy genre at the click of a button. Like, it's going to be insane how fast you can find similar books in your genre. And it's going to be a tool for writers, but primarily it's going to be a tool for readers so that they can find their next great book. So I've been working on that, and that's actually what drove me kind of to the edge, because I was testing this tool, I was providing feedback for it, I was developing some vision and strategy and a marketing plan for it when we launch it later this month. And so I think that was the point where I realized, okay, I'm taking on way too much. I have to scale things back. And so the tool is just about done. I'm not too worried about it at this point, but that's when I realized, okay, I've got a problem. Like, I need to do something. So, and I didn't even mention that I'm writing a novel as I'm doing all of this as well. I'm digging out. I'm in a much better spot right now. I am excited for a lot of things. So another thing that I'm going to be working on, and if that wasn't enough, so if you know me by now, you know that I have to take on additional projects. I have to get better about this, but I am in the process of redoing how I shoot my YouTube videos. So right now I shoot my videos in my office, and I have to be honest with you, I hate the way my videos look. Ever since I've come back to Author Level Up in June of last year, I can't stand it. The lighting in my office is terrible. The sound it's not really that good. It could be better. I mean, very few people have complained about it, but I'm not happy with it. And I have a weird little room that I record in. I don't like this room. It's terrible for doing anything that's going to show up on camera, honestly. And so what I'm going to do is my wife and I are taking some time over the next week, and we are going to completely gut and clean out our basement. And we are going to get to a point where we're going to have almost nothing on the floor in our basement. It's going to be completely decluttered. We're going to throw a bunch of stuff out, give a bunch of stuff away, and I'm going to turn half of my basement into a full-time YouTube studio. So I'm looking forward to this one because I'm not going to have to set up every day. Like right now, I have to set up all of my equipment every day I want to shoot, the day before, and then I have to do a little bit of setup the day of, and then I've got to tear everything down again. It takes a lot of time to produce like one video. Like it takes me the same amount of time to set up and tear down to do one video as it does to do 3 videos, and that's just not cool. Like there's something wrong there. So ideally what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to set up my YouTube studio and my lights and my camera and all that to where I can just wake up in the mornings at 5 o'clock in the morning, get ready, get my makeup on, go downstairs and prep for a minute or two, and then just start shooting. And that is going to allow me to do a lot of cool stuff. It's going to allow my editor to do some pretty cool stuff as well, because I'm going to go back to the white background in my YouTube videos, which I know people are going to be pretty excited about, and I think they're going to look better this time around as well. So those are a few of the things that I'm working on and why I've been a little overwhelmed lately. But I'll tell you, I thrive when I have a lot of things going on. It's high work. When I have margin, I tend to, I don't know, I just tend to get complacent. And so this is how I find ways to challenge myself and stretch myself. And I've got some other things that are going to be slowly rolling off over the next month or so. I think once the course is done, I'll be in a much better spot to sit back and kind of take a look at kind of how I'm achieving my goals for the year. So just wanted to talk about that. That was on my mind, and I'm sure that you guys probably listen to this podcast and you're like, man, he does a lot. I do a lot, but I'm not immune to overwhelm, and I kind of have to figure out my way around it just like everyone else. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for joining me this week. If you like this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaellaron.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaellaron.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and you want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.